Assassin's Creed A Black Flag Resynced is finally here. And let me tell you something, Sunshine. We got a situation on our hands. There's a lot of good to be said, but there's also a tremendous amount of bad things and potentially devastating things to Ubisoft also to be said. Eat my word, this one line right here is absolutely crazy. By the way, I'm not joking. This one line is pretty insane, honestly. The information it provides us is absolutely bonkers. In any case, let's start off with the good, because why not? We're positive on this channel. Every video is positive, as everyone knows, and anyone who says otherwise is a dirty liar. In any case, this is probably the first Assassin's Creed game in 15 years or so that has had at least some form of legitimate hype behind it. Think about Assassin's Creed Shadows. No one was hyped about that shit. It looked terrible. But Assassin's Creed Black Flag legitimately had people excited, at least for a bit. Optimistic, cautious excitement, but excitement nonetheless. And this is probably, in the past 10 years, the first Ubisoft game to legitimately be not dead on arrival. I honestly never thought that this day is gonna come, but here we are. Day one peak was almost at 100k. Now, granted, sad part is I actually don't remember how much I predicted this. Was it... What was it, 70, 80, 60? I don't remember how much. I think I said 100k would be a lot, but I have a feeling that this is breaking my expectations just a little bit. But this is where the good stuff pretty much ends. Resynced has its upsides, has its downsides. The interesting thing was, by the way, yesterday when it literally came out, it was on a less than 45% positive ratio on SteamDB. On Steam, that is, in general. And now it's on 65%, which means we are dealing with a lot of normies. And speaking about that, the normies don't actually make a lot of sense when we look at Twitter, which is kind of interesting, but more about that. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is already at least 2 times more successful than Shadows. Shadows was a disaster, and it literally just peaked at a barely 64k players. Well, we should say 65, but whatever, you get the point. And this is almost 100k. So, a lot better. Ridiculously a lot better, in fact. Almost 50% better, in fact. Which, again, is super wild. Well, actually, this is more than 50% better if we do the math. But that doesn't matter. It is tremendously better, which means that the Assassin's Creed franchise is not dead, or at least that's what Ubisoft should take away from this. Will they? I don't know. But yeah, this graph is the big cheese here, okay? As we all know, we love graphs on this channel, and everyone knows that on these graphs, timing matters a lot. So it got released at 14:00 UTC. That is 2 p.m. for our American friends, by the way, at least in Europe. And this graph makes me worried. Not really, but you get the point. If I was Ubisoft and I was looking at this graph, I would be worried. Because the reality is, boys, I'm currently looking and I'm honestly thinking that Assassin's Creed Black Flag could be a marathon type of situation. And being compared to Marathon in any way is not a good thing at all. Okay, Marathon scored almost 90k concurrent players, but Marathon, unlike Assassin's Creed Shadows, had something called retention. And it does not look like this is happening, because we know how the numbers should look on the Steam charts, okay? It released here, and then it peaked in 1 hour, and literally, 3 hours in, it started dropping. That is diabolic. That is not what a good game looks like. There are no excuses to release a fresh game, and it's starting to drop in 2 days. Now, granted, this was released on a Thursday, so we do have Saturday and Sunday to look forward, and today is Friday, obviously. And the Friday is probably going to be bigger, so it's most likely going to break 100k players. But But even though this is a Thursday release, this is kinda not good. Even Marathon had stronger attention. Even Marathon had stronger attention. That's hard to say. Look at this. We know that the prime times for gaming pretty much start around, you can say about 9 if we want to be conservative about our estimates. We can say that the prime time starts about 9. And then it goes up to, pretty much like 10 if it's a new release around midnight. And then if it's a really good game, it stays popular for like an hour or two or three or four, depending on how it goes after. And granted, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced did. Here is the midnight, and then it goes pretty strong until 4 a.m., which is a decent show that people who are playing this are interested in what they're seeing. But the initial drop, that should not happen. That shit should be slightly going up until pretty much 4 a.m. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Actually, this is Assassin's Creed Shadow, so this doesn't count. I guess we can use Marathon as a better example. Yeah, look at this. The peak. The peak for Marathon is the first peak is at 8 a.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It depends on it kind of depends, and then it's 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Now, granted, Marathon's a little bit different, but this is kind of almost what you expect for almost any game. The difference is there one or two peaks. And in Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced situation, again, the drop off just happened instantaneously. This game literally lost 1/3 of its peak before the average dad with 5 wives, 10 stepchildren who has only 5 nanoseconds to play a game decided to go to sleep on an average day. This is really, really concerning. This is a very concerning statistic when we're talking about a new game release. Again, I cannot understate how big this is. The fact that 1/3 of the people just left. You know what had this type of graph? What's it called? the Overwatch clone, that. Overguard. No, what was that shit called? That thing had a graph like this. Actually, we can probably oh no. Okay, let's look at Palworld. It just got released just now. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. 24-hour release. This is, by the way, releasing literally the night. Look at this graph. My god, and it's still climbing. Look at this. It got released in 3 a.m. 3 a.m. And it climbed and it's not stopping. This is what a good game release should be considered as. We can... Marathon still. Arc Raiders. Let's look at Arc Raiders, right? 1 week. Look at this. Arc Raiders has... They have a peak at 8? That's actually kind of wild, honestly. But in any case, you look at this. The peaks at 8, and still the second peak stays strong around 1 and 2 a.m. And Arc Raiders is an old game, and even it's not losing 30% of its player base. 42 to 35 is 20-ish percent. That's 20-ish percent. That is actually less than 20-ish percent, like 17-ish percent. You see what I mean? Assassin's Creed fall off here in the Steam charts is diabolically bad. This is really bad. And I think it's understandable to a certain degree. Now, granted, again, it's better than Shadows. That much is definitely a given. A lot of people are also expressing their not exactly happiness about the fact that all the DLC is almost $90. This is not fucking GTA 6 we're talking about, and even for GTA, people are not willing to accept this, but Assassin's Creed, a Black Flag Resynced DLC costs more than the full game itself, which is diabolic. Insane, in fact. This is... I mean, we know that Ubisoft is very desperate for money, but this is kind of just sad at this point. Now, granted, people are actually also saying things like, why does no one talk about Sims 4 having 1,000 $500 worth of microtransaction. That's because you're a woman! And no one cares! That's why! No one cares! The Sims is for girls! Who cares? Let EA do what EA wants! Anyway, there's this neat IGN article because IGN never loses a chance to be stupid. And this one is with Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced launch on July 9th. There's a look back at what IGN readers voted as the top 10 best Assassin's Creed games. And you can see that there's literally Assassin's Creed Shadows right there. Does Assassin's Creed even have fucking 10 games to vote on, by the way? Kind of seems wild. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that's insane. That's insane. Needless to say, garbage. But it's IGN, so what do you want? And the Black Flag situation is pretty interesting. When you look at the top things that people are talking about, here's the classic fact that they did obviously censor things and whatnot. We expected this. We knew that this is happening. Now, granted, I know some people are going to say, oh, it's just a little bit. How about we just throw you in prison just a little bit, you know? You're gonna just be in a prison labor camp for 1 out of 7 days. That's not a lot. Why are you so mad? God, everyone who's just like, oh, it's not a big deal. I hate these people so much. I know you exist. I know that you're out there, and know that I am gonna be under your bed one day. Not in that sense. In any case, there is censoring. It's not the biggest, but again, censoring is censoring. And well, Ubisoft obviously did it because modern day isms. I haven't heard anything about the new female companion quest line or anything like that, or about the other things. But in general, no one's really talking about Black Flag. I honestly think that this video is not even going to do that good. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But when you look, for example, at latest posts by people, I'm not gonna refresh it in case someone, there's some non-wanted things. But people are not posting that much. This is latest. If a thing's really hot, you refresh it, and there's like 5 posts per 10 seconds. Assassin's Creed Resynced doesn't have that. It has like, I don't know, 2 to 3 posts per a minute. That is not good. So it seems like the average player is not playing this. And at this point, obviously, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced Lamau is gonna be a commercial success, most likely. There is no way that Ubisoft spent 300 million on this. So whatever, however, if they sell 1.5 million copies, they're probably going to be making a minor profit. Probably. Again, I don't know. I don't honestly even know if they need to sell 1 million copies. I'm not sure how much a remake costs. This is one of the things that I have never actually heard, so I don't have a baseline for this. But I imagine it's something below 100 million for a remake. So if we look at the typical spiel of sales, then at this point, I'm kind of expecting that Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced has sold roughly 800,000 copies. Or 700,000 copies. But that's the super big thing because this is a very anticipated thing. So the sales are going to drop off 3 times harder than something like a 007 First Light, which we know was a commercial disaster. I do think Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced will break even, but I do think that Ubisoft expected way better. So we're gonna see if they announce instantaneously a new remake of an old thing, or in a year. Then we know that this was good enough. If no, then we know that this was not good enough. In fact, which may put a damper. I'm gonna probably keep an eye on the. No, it's 20 minutes in. It's 20 minutes in, though. It's just 20 minutes in. 20 minutes in and one. Is this not even gonna reach 80K? No. We don't know when the peak is gonna be. It's not gonna be at fucking 3 p.m. Lamau. It's gonna be like your typical average spiel of 8 to 9 p.m. 7 p.m. or something like that, and then it's gonna go because it's new. It's gonna go until midnight. But if the peak is here, then this is not gonna even break 80K at this point. Statistically speaking, 1/3 has passed. This is a 10% increase, and 1/3 of an hour has already passed, soon closer to 50% of making this video, by the way. And the increase has been, what is this? 2.5%? That's not good. That is not good. That is not good. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing what happens with this graph, honestly. Probably gonna make a video like Sunday or Saturday. Let's see. Probably Sunday when we have the Saturday's numbers. I think it's gonna definitely break the 100K in the weekdays, but again, this drop is very, very questionable. And by the way, the typical way that we calculate these things is just add a 0 to the sales on Steam. Because Steam is the majority sale platform, as we all know. Multiple sources have confirmed that already. And, then depending on do people are hyped for this or non-hyped, plus minus 50%. I think there's a lot of people that are very hyped for this. So I think the sales are going to be front-loaded a lot. So this number's so the sales number goes down. It hasn't sold 1 million copies, and I think this is like 30% front loaded. So again, 700,000 copies sold. In any case, what's your opinion? I think it's wild. We're gonna see how this goes. Potentially Ubisoft's first non-instantaneous disaster. They're probably already corking the champagne at this point, honestly. And well, let's see. Maybe there's going to be some news because I have not seen any gameplay videos, nothing. So I don't know if this is just purely normies. In any case, like the video right now. It takes less than a second. It helps out a lot. For every 2 more people are going to watch this video. So you do have a power to influence how this goes. So please do it right now. Do it right now. It takes less than a second. And have a nice day. Bye.